Okay, you've been thinking about producing music for a long time, but you don't know where to start. You're like, I love stuff that I hear on the radio, or the bands I find on Spotify, or the cool random stuff my friends make. How do I start doing this? Here's the exciting thing. In my opinion, there has never been a better time to start making music. Now, everyone has access to the tools, so everyone's producing stuff. That means it's harder to stand out. If your end goal is to become a famous music pop star, it might be harder now than it's ever been in some ways, because you have to stand out in the field of everyone else. But if your goal is to have fun making music and get better, in my opinion, there's never been a better time. So let's talk about where to start. You've got a couple of options. You can go out and get a laptop, you could build a desktop, or you could use the phone you already own, or an iPad. When thinking about what device to buy for music production, or what device to use, it's important to think about what your end goals are. Something like a PC or a Mac will give you the longest mileage as far as producing the most polished product, at least on your own. However, I have found that the iPad, it's one of the most creativity conductive devices I've ever used. I have my iPad with me everywhere I go. My model specifically is the iPad Pro 2018 11-inch model. Now I've had my ups and downs with the iPad. There are things that it couldn't do that I wanted it to do that now it can do. There are some things that it might never do. But the iPad, the thing for me that stands out with the iPad is the ease of use and the plethora of options combined with the portability and the flexibility. So you want to do live music. You want to sequence synthesizers that are on your iPad with a piece of external gear, using something like an OPZ or a Novation circuit, or anything else with a MIDI brain and an out. Plug it right into AUM, plug in a couple of audio unit V3s, now you've got a stew going. Alright, so you've never made a song before, and you're trying to figure out where to start. Well, you're in the right place. YouTube can teach you pretty much everything you need to know at this point, and if you're planning on spending money to go learn something, make sure that it's from someone whose work you actually like a masterclass, or a YouTuber who's offering some kind of Skillshare program. I would say if you're looking at a community college or even a college level degree in music production, look at who's teaching it and if you want to sound like them. But I know what you're thinking. Why should I even spend money on this when there's so much content here? And I agree. Now I can't teach you everything. No one can. But I can tell you where I think you should start. If you've got a lot of money to spend and you want to dive deep right now, right away, I think you should buy a PC or a Mac laptop and Ableton Live. And if you've got a lot of money, get an Ableton Push 2. Also, for the hardware components of this, you can buy used, and I do recommend it. The combination of the Ableton Push 2 and Ableton Live is probably my favorite way to produce music. However, the iPad Pro is so portable and so flexible that even though I can't run VST plugins, and I can't run the same high-level mixing and mastering chain that I would in Ableton, I'm still just so drawn to use the iPad. It's with me all the time. If you've already got an iPhone or an iPad, you should immediately download Garageband for free. It's free. It will teach you the basics of a linear DAW, and at least since 2015, they've had a live kind of loop playback grid view that is similar to the playback method of Ableton Live, which I like. If you find that you like mobile DAW production, then I recommend branching out. There are quite a few options for DAWs or digital audio workstations on iPad, but in my opinion, there are three standouts amongst all the rest. My favorite is Korg Gadget. Korg Gadget is made by Korg. You can only really use Korg sounds. With a recent update, you can use something called Type A, which lets you sequence external sounds, but for the most part, Korg Gadget is designed to play Korg sounds, produced with gadgets, which are their versions of their own internal plugins. It is a self-contained ecosystem with a lot of options and a lot of expandability. Now, like everything else I'm going to recommend in this section, I do think you should wait for a sale, because these things go half off all the time. But Korg Gadget is my number one DAW on iOS. My number two DAW is Cubasis. Now, Cubasis gives you something that's pretty similar to Logic Pro. You can use Audio Unit V3 plugins and sequence them in a linear line, which is similar to GarageBand, but it gives you quite a bit more customization and quite a bit more view into audio levels and all kinds of other things that are really handy to have. Cubasis 2 is what I was using for a long time until I switched mainly over to Gadget. If you're primarily interested in beat production and using external samples, then I think your best option is Beatmaker 3. I've used it a bit, and the workflow doesn't always click with me, but it's highly flexible and the basic groundwork of the program is really powerful. I'll list the links to all these in the description below. But yeah, if you want to get started with music production, if you own a Mac, download Garageband. If you have to keep it cheap and you don't own anything, get an iPad 2019 and start learning Garageband. This way, you get the initial hardware investment and you can start learning from a pretty good starter DAW. A lot of people do a lot of really great stuff with GarageBand. When you want to go to the next level, look into Korg Gadget, look into Cubasis, look into Beatmaker. Nano Studio 2 has some great qualities, but I don't believe you can record audio into it. For more information on learning iPad music production, I highly recommend Jakob Hack's channel, as well as Electronic Sounds Audio and the Sound Test Room. There are other great folks as well, and the ones I forget I'll try to link below. When it comes to desktop music production, Ableton Live is the best in my opinion. There are going to be people who tell you other apps, but as far as I'm concerned, Ableton Live is the only one you need. But no matter what gear you have, if you're watching this video on YouTube and it's not on like a TV or a Chromecast, the device you're watching this video on very likely has some kind of application to make music on it. Android might have the least options, and I say that as someone rocking a Samsung Note 9. But there's still stuff on there. FL Studio Mobile's alright. You can even use USB MIDI controllers to make sounds with it. There's Caustic, and I think a couple others. But if you're really wanting to do phone-based music production, I do think the iPhone just benefits so much from the Audio Unit V3 ecosystem, and a lot of the apps I talked about are also on iPhone, including GarageBand and Korg Gadget. When it comes to creative pursuits, really the most important thing you can do is just start now. It's kind of like investing in your future. If you start now, you will continue to get better and you will continue to see progress. But if you wait and you put it off, you're giving yourself less time to enjoy the craft and less time to grow. The most important thing is to make things that you like and enjoy. Focus on what speaks to you. What's unique about you? What do you bring to the table that no one else can? There's no harm in learning how to play songs on guitar that are made by your favorite artist, or even covering your favorite artist's song in your DAW of choice. But the most important thing you can do is find that spark inside of yourself that drives you, that makes you want to create, and find that weird, unique sound that you've not really heard someone else make, but speaks to you. And it's like something you have to get out in the world. Alright, thanks for watching. This was kind of a basic overview. I'm going to do more of a deep dive down the line on getting started with music production. So definitely subscribe if you want to see videos like that, or performance videos, or more stuff about iPads. This is Ultra Choice. I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. Alright, peace.